Congratulations. Host, you have completed 99 tasks for Christopher. As long as you finish the last one, you will successfully return to your original world and revive your lover Theodore. Upon hearing the system's announcement, Valentina felt a sharp pang in her heart, and a thick layer of white mist unconsciously welled up in her eyes. It has been 5 years. She has waited for this moment for a full 5 years. Chapter 1. She did not belong to this world. In her world, she was supposed to walk down the aisle with her childhood sweetheart, but just before the wedding, they were suddenly involved in a car accident. Theodore protected her at the first moment, leaving her unharmed, while he died on the spot. She was in despair, nearly dying, until she accidentally bound a system that brought her into this world and gave her the chance to revive Theodore. The system's task was to complete 100 tasks for the wealthy young master of this world, Christopher. Upon completion, she would be able to revive her lover and return to her original world. From then on, Valentina began to approach Christopher with a purpose. Because of her unconditional devotion, she became known as a sycophant in the circle. Whenever Valentina's name was mentioned, people would sneer in disdain. Her, that clingy adhesive to Christopher, impossible to shake off. If I were her, after being rejected so many times, I would have been too embarrassed to show my face. Exactly. Who doesn't know that Christopher only has Calliope in his heart? It's truly overestimating oneself. The phone rang beside her, abruptly interrupting Valentina's memories. Hey, simp. Why aren't you hurrying over? Christopher has killed someone. The caller was a brother from Christopher's circle, who hurriedly told her that Christopher had killed someone and urged her to come quickly before hanging up. In the winter night at dawn, heavy snow began to fall, and Valentina, without an umbrella, rushed into the blizzard. When they arrived at the location, a circle of people was gathered in the private room. On the floor lay a man, his face pale, devoid of any color. Upon seeing her appear, everyone's gaze fell upon her. You're here. Quickly think of a way. Christopher drank too much and didn't pay attention to his strength. He killed this man. Although the Law family is a top-tier aristocracy, they cannot be above the law. Killing someone means going to prison. Valentina, since you like Christopher so much, why don't you go to prison for him? She glanced around at the crowd surrounding her, and without a moment's hesitation, she immediately nodded and replied, "All right, I'll go for him." The crowd was taken aback, seemingly not expecting her to be so resolute. And after a moment, everyone in the private room burst into laughter. Amidst the crowd, Christopher slowly walked out from behind the screen. Even the dead man who had just been lying on the ground stood up as well. Ha 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 ha. Christopher, you see, we weren't just talking. Valentina truly loves you to the point of obsession, willing to do even something like going to jail for you. No wonder you are the well-known sycophant in the circle. I say you should hurry up and give her that donation letter. I feel that with her kind of love-struck mentality, she would definitely be willing. Looking at the man before her, whose expression was clear and whose demeanor was cold, Valentina finally realized that she had been played again. Christopher's expression was indifferent as he slowly walked up to her and handed her a document. Since you are willing to go to jail, are you also willing to do this? Opening the first page of the document, Valentina immediately saw the glaring words at the top, heart donation agreement. She looked up, meeting Christopher's cold gaze. Calliope has a heart condition, and only your heart in the entire city is a match. Don't worry, you won't die from donating your heart. I have already tailored an artificial heart for you abroad, and it will maintain basic life functions without any issues. Valentina, as long as you are willing to donate your heart to Calliope, I will marry you. Valentina had always known that Christopher deeply loved Calliope, but she never expected that he would love her to this extent. For her, he was actually willing to marry a woman he completely did not love. As the heir of the law group, Christopher has been subjected to militarized management since childhood, which deepened his feelings for Calliope, who had once given him warmth in his early years. However, Calliope has always regarded him merely as a younger brother. Just as he was preparing to confess his feelings, she resolutely left the country with another man. Since then, Christopher has silently watched over her, waiting for 7 years. He loved her deeply, and upon learning that Calliope had developed acute heart disease and had been abandoned by her boyfriend, he immediately flew abroad to bring her back and took care of her with great care. It was even more so to find a compatible heart for her, nearly turning the whole city upside down. But Valentina never expected that he would actually come to find her. Seeing Valentina remain silent for a long time, Christopher wanted to speak again, but saw her suddenly raise her gaze. Her eyes filled with joy. "Sure, I'll donate." Her light and airy voice was incredibly straightforward, as if she were merely answering a casual question about whether she had eaten. Christopher's pupils trembled slightly. "You really willing to donate a heart? Such a significant operation. How could she agree so readily?" She still smiled gently and replied, "As long as it's a request from you, I am willing to do it." Donating her heart for his crush. This was the 100th thing she had done for him. Once it was done, she would be able to revive her lover and leave completely. Looking at her expectant expression, even the usually indifferent Christopher felt a tightness in his throat at that moment. Did she really love him that much? Without waiting for him to speak, she had already signed her name on it without hesitation. He was still a bit stunned, unsure whether it was to reassure her or himself, and added, "The surgery is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. I will arrange everything and won't let you suffer too much." Valentina nodded with a smile, but her heart was filled with relief. "It's great. In half a month, she will be able to leave completely." Chapter 2. With the dust settled. Knowing Christopher didn't want to see her anymore, Valentina turned to leave, but just a few steps in, everything suddenly went dark, and her body uncontrollably fell backward. Beside her, Christopher was quick to react and caught her. It was only at this moment that he noticed her clothes were already soaked with snow, her fingers cold as ice, and on her feet, she was surprisingly wearing a pair of slippers. She must have been in such a hurry when she left that she didn't even have time to change her shoes. Is she really that worried about him? She doesn't even care for her own well-being. The onlookers couldn't help but snicker at Valentina's outfit. What a romantic. Receiving a call and getting so anxious that she would wear slippers out in such cold weather, not even afraid of freezing her feet. Isn't that just how a simp behaves? If you don't put in a little more effort, how can you win Christopher's heart? Anyway, she has already agreed to donate her heart. So Christopher, just leave her be and let the staff handle it. Christopher looked at the woman leaning against him, her small face pale from the cold, as if a stone was lodged in his chest, making it hard for him to breathe. By some strange twist of fate, he actually picked her up in his arms. Glancing at the astonished expressions of those around him, he said coldly, "For her heart. Her body cannot have any issues in these last 2 weeks." With that, he hurriedly took her away. Uncertain how long she had been in a deep sleep, Valentina slowly began to regain some awareness. In a daze, it seemed someone was holding her, gently feeding water to her lips. The movements of the visitor were so gentle and warm that they reminded her of Theodore. Only he would treat her so gently. It has been 5 years, and she has missed him to the point of madness, dreaming every night that he would return to her side. This time, she thought she was dreaming again, so she joyfully grasped the visitor's hand, her voice trembling slightly. "Theodore." In the next moment, the sharp pain in her wrist suddenly brought her back to reality. When she opened her eyes, she realized that the person sitting in front of her, with deep-set eyes and a hint of anger, was Christopher. His brows furrowed into a shape. "Who were you just calling?" Valentina bit her lip unnaturally and, after glancing around the environment, hurriedly changed the subject. "How did I end up at your house?" His face still bore an expression of displeasure. "Once you finish the heart donation surgery, we will get married. So of course you will live at my house." Whose name were you just calling? Usually, he wasn't the type to pry into details and wasn't particularly interested in her matters. But for some reason, today he insisted on getting to the bottom of it. She felt guilty and didn't dare to look at him. "I love you so much. Of course I was calling your name." Christopher did not ask further, clearly believing her words. Indeed, after all, everyone in the capital circle knew how much she loved him. Who else could she call besides his name? He got up and casually threw a set of clothes in front of her. "All right, put on the clothes and let's go to the hospital together." It was only when they arrived at the hospital Valentina realized that Christopher had long prepared a series of checkups for her, just to confirm that the heart inside her could be safely transplanted into Calliope's chest. Watching the needle pierce her vein, Valentina remembered that she used to be terrified of injections. Every time at moments like this, Theodore would chuckle softly and wrap his arms around her, covering her eyes with his hand. "Be good. Don't be afraid. I'm here." But now, he lay in that cold, icy coffin, never again to gently call her "be good." The doctor beside her was reminding her of the post-operative precautions. "Miss Lynn, while the artificial heart can sustain your life, it cannot compare to a human organ, so you must not run, avoid spicy food, refrain from staying up late, control your emotions, and even speaking loudly is not allowed. To put it bluntly, you will basically be like a living dead person. There is no difference. What does it matter if she is like a living dead person? Without Theodore by her side, what difference does it make whether she is alive or dead? Moreover, she never belonged here. Once she completes this last task, the system will declare her mission a success. Her body will die, and her soul will return to the original world. So whether she installs this artificial heart or not, she will die." Seeing that she remained distracted, Christopher's gaze suddenly turned cold. "Are you regretting it?" Valentina came back to her senses, gently shook her head, and then answered seriously, "No, I will do everything I promised you." The two locked eyes, Christopher once again gazing into her deep, affectionate eyes, a look filled with love that for the first time made him feel a bit flustered. He hurriedly averted his gaze, using the excuse of needing to make a phone call, and pushed the door open to leave. Valentina sat there, absent-mindedly listening to all the doctor's instructions. Half an hour later, Christopher still hadn't returned, so she had to say goodbye to the doctor and left on her own. Just as she stepped outside, she ran into Calliope, who had just finished her examination. This was the first time the two met, and they both unconsciously stopped in their tracks. Calliope's photos, Valentina had seen countless times before. Christopher's home was filled with her photos. From childhood, youth, to adulthood, he did not miss a single moment of her life, and Valentina witnessed her changes and growth along the way. Just like in the photos, she was stunningly beautiful, her complexion a bit pale, like a delicate porcelain doll in a display window. This is the destructive power of a crush. Even someone as unattainable as Christopher could not escape the cliché and remained infatuated with her. Valentina did not intend to have too much interaction with her, but just as she was about to leave, behind her Calliope suddenly called out to her, "Miss Lynn, I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have been forced by Christopher to donate your heart to me. I know, after this surgery, you will suffer greatly." Valentina turned around, her tone calm and unruffled. "I am doing this willingly." Everything was indeed her own choice. Only in this way could she revive Theodore. Seeing her so calm, Calliope seemed to be somewhat shaken. She coldly curled her lips, a hint of pride on her beautiful face. "I know. This is all because Christopher agreed to marry you as a condition. Unfortunately, your calculations are wrong. I won't let you have your way." Chapter 3. Just as Valentina was pondering what she meant by that, Calliope suddenly rushed towards her. She had no time to react, watching helplessly as Calliope grabbed her hand and slapped her own face hard several times. "I'm sorry, Miss Lynn. It's all my fault. It's because I got this illness that forced you to donate your heart. If hitting me can ease your resentment, then go ahead and hit me." As the words fell, a gust of wind suddenly swept by, and before Valentina could see the person in front of her, she was forcefully pushed away by a powerful force. She stumbled, her head striking the wall, leaving a gash. Her vision was instantly filled with red, but Christopher didn't even glance at her. He was only focused on protecting Calliope. "What happened? Are you hurt anywhere?" Calliope weakly collapsed in his arms, tears streaming down her face like beads from a broken string. "Don't blame Miss Lynn. She was forced to give me her heart, and it's only natural for her to feel resentment towards me." Looking at her pitiful appearance, Christopher felt both heartbroken and angry, and the one who bore all the anger was naturally Valentina. He looked at her, his gaze as cold as a sharp blade. What exactly do you want to do? You were the one who promised to donate, and now you're the one causing trouble. Everything is my decision. Why are you taking it out on Calliope? He didn't even give her a chance to explain, directly turning to ask Calliope, how many slaps did she give you? Calliope weakly raised her head, cautiously biting her lip. 3. Christopher. Forget it. Christopher gently comforted her, then turned to command the bodyguard beside him. Did you hear that? I want her to pay back tenfold. Suddenly, a black shadow loomed in front of her. Through the gaps, she watched Christopher gently lift Calliope as if cradling a fragile glass doll. What awaited her were one after another of stinging, heavy slaps. It hurt. It really hurt. She felt as if she could barely keep her eyes open. If Theodore were here, he would definitely protect her. But he is not here, and no one can protect her anymore. After a long time, she was dragged back to the Law's home villa by the bodyguards. In the following days, she was put under house arrest, and Christopher did not return. The next time she heard news of him was on the television. The primetime news spent a full 10 minutes reporting how the young master of the capital circle's top family was trying to win the heart of his crush. For example, he spent lavishly to buy a cruise ship, just to make her smile. For instance, she loved diamonds, so he personally traveled to South Africa to auction off the world's largest pink diamond and delivered it into her hands. And when he heard she couldn't eat, he invited countless Michelin-starred chefs to prepare exquisite meals. And in the end, even cooked himself, just to get her to eat one more bite. Such unique and extravagant affection made the socialites of the capital circle envious beyond measure. Only Valentina watched these news stories with indifference, as if they had nothing to do with her. 3 days later, it would be Calliope's birthday. Christopher's assistant came to pick her up in a formal dress, taking her to the birthday party, and in front of everyone, he apologized to Calliope. She didn't want to go, but the assistant made a harsh remark. Mr. Law said that whether you like it or not, you have to go. Otherwise, I'll have you tied up, and I will make sure you appear at the party. For Calliope, he naturally wouldn't care about her feelings. Looking at her slightly flushed cheeks in the mirror, her face not fully healed, Valentina, with red-rimmed eyes, took out foundation and patted it on her face repeatedly, trying to cover up the glaring scars. It's almost time, she kept telling herself over and over. Soon, the mission would come to an end, and she would be able to leave as she wished. The venue for the banquet was on the luxurious cruise ship that Christopher had purchased for Calliope. It is said that all the arrangements for the banquet were personally designed by Christopher. The overwhelming red roses, the custom chocolates engraved with Calliope's name, and the fireworks bright enough to illuminate the entire city all showcased his thoughtfulness. And amidst the crowd of admirers, Christopher, amidst applause and cheers, took out a priceless collection from the last century, a necklace named Heart of True Love, and personally placed it around her neck. For a moment, the entire venue was in an uproar. This is the necklace that Princess Diana of the United Kingdom once wore, right? I heard that it was recently auctioned by Sotheby's and was bought by a big shot who said he wanted to give it to his true love. Who would have thought that big shot is Mr. Law? Mr. Law's love for Miss Zhao over the years is truly evident. He is wealthy, powerful, and handsome, and has silently protected her for so many years. He almost turned the entire city upside down just to find a heart source. I think if it weren't for the mismatch, he would even give away his own heart. Such a passionate man. Why on earth won't Miss Zhao agree to him? In the corner, where the light could not reach, Valentina silently watched everything before her. Upon hearing this, she felt neither sorrow nor sadness. Her mind was filled with only one thought. With only a few days left to complete her mission and leave, she could not afford any distractions. She needed to avoid contact with Calliope as much as possible. Just when she thought today would pass peacefully, Calliope suddenly walked over to her. Cutting through the crowd, a wave of unease surged within her, and she instinctively wanted to turn and leave. But Calliope's movements were faster. She had already grabbed her from behind. In the dim light, Calliope turned her back to the crowd and coldly said in a tone only the two could hear, "Valentina, haven't you learned enough from the last lesson? If you dare to come over again, today I will make you fully understand how wrong it is to continue clinging to Christopher." As soon as she finished speaking, she directly pulled the necklace off her neck and casually tossed it into the sea. Then, she pretended to be surprised and pushed her away forcefully. "Miss Lynn, are you crazy? Even if you're jealous of how good Christopher is to me, you shouldn't throw the necklace into the sea." The crowd was quickly drawn to her voice. Christopher, in particular, looked tense as he protectively shielded Calliope. "What's wrong? Did she bully you again?" What a word again was. Valentina found it somewhat amusing, yet understood that no matter how clumsy Calliope's lies were, she would still bear the blame. Sure enough, Calliope had already changed her demeanor, grabbing Christopher and crying out, "Christopher, Miss Lynn threw the necklace you gave me into the sea." Christopher's expression was chilling, his gaze like a sharp blade, piercing fiercely at Valentina. "Are you just going to treat what I said as if it were nothing?" After saying that, he held Calliope close and comforted her repeatedly. "It's nothing, just a necklace. If you like it, I'll buy you another one." While crying, Calliope pushed him away and tried to leap over the railing into the sea. "No, this necklace has a different meaning to me. I want it." Christopher furrowed his brows tighter, holding her hand even more firmly, and confirmed, "You must find it today, right?" Calliope nodded vigorously. "Yes." Receiving her affirmative response, Christopher turned to look at Valentina, his tone cold and devoid of any emotion. "In that case, whoever lost it should go down and find it." In the next moment, he unhesitatingly pushed Valentina down. Chapter 4. Help! Help me! The icy seawater instantly engulfed her whole, leaving only a glimmer of light above her head. But gradually, that last glimmer of light also disappeared. Valentina closed her eyes, feeling her body grow heavier. She was so tired, so sleepy, and just wanted to drift off like this. No, she couldn't sleep yet. She still had one last thing to accomplish. If she couldn't do it, she would never see Theodore again. At this thought, she didn't know where the strength came from, and suddenly opened her eyes. Then, she exerted all her strength and desperately swam towards the surface. By the time she crawled to the shore, she was already exhausted. Water choked her chest, and it felt as if her lungs were about to explode. She could only cough wildly to relieve it. Valentina struggled to cling to the rocks, feeling like a wretched and disgusting water ghost. Before she could regain her senses, a sudden dull pain shot through her shoulder, and then she was heavily kicked back into the water. On the shore, a line of bodyguards in suits watched her, expressionless and cold in tone. "Mr. Law said that you are not allowed to come ashore until you retrieve the necklace." She choked on water several times before she could slightly calm herself. It seemed that if she couldn't find the necklace today, this matter would not easily come to an end. With no other choice, she could only dive down to the bottom of the water again and again. After a full 3 hours of countless ascents and descents, she finally found the necklace that had been discarded by Calliope. When she came ashore, her entire body was frozen and numb. Her fingers were even whitened from being soaked in the water. The bodyguard tossed her a set of clothes and told her to change before coming out. Valentina shivered as she carried the clothes and walked alone into the bathroom. At that moment, it seemed that someone else had walked in. The voice of the newcomer was very familiar. Upon listening closely, it was indeed Calliope and her group of friends. "Calliope, Mr. Law truly loves you so much. Such an expensive necklace he just gave you without hesitation. When you cried, he was so heartbroken that he would have given you his life. Before, you said you only regarded him as a younger brother. When you went abroad with your ex-boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend ran away as soon as he heard about your heart condition. Only Christopher stayed by your side. After all he has done for you, even a heart made of stone would have to be warmed. You surely don't still see him as just a younger brother, do you?" Calliope smiled, her tone laced with pride. "You've been fooled by me too. Calling him a younger brother was just an excuse. Men are always attracted to what they can't have. If not, how could I become his unattainable crush? As long as I keep Christopher hanging on, He will love me forever. That's much better than actually being with him. Her friends gasped in shock upon hearing this. No way. Did you really mean that your trip abroad with your ex-boyfriend was all a lie? You're playing a really big game here. Calliope burst into laughter. Of course. Which man in this world can compare to Christopher? That guy was just a tool I brought in to make Christopher jealous. Look, Christopher. Haven't these years been nothing but a waste for me? Lingering on and on? Her best friend couldn't help but clap her hands. Wow, gal. Your move is truly brilliant. But Calliope, you better not go too far. I heard that Christopher is going to marry that sycophant Valentina for your heart. If they get married, all your schemes will be in vain. Calliope confidently spoke. I have this under control. Moreover, Christopher didn't care about that woman at all. A few days ago, I deliberately slapped myself 3 times, and he had someone return the favor with 30 slaps to her. Today, I threw the necklace into the sea again, and without a second thought, he kicked her into the water. She still hasn't come up. I have plenty of ways to torment her. Don't worry. I will definitely not let them get married. As their voices gradually faded away, it was only then that Valentina slowly walked out from the restroom. In her hand, she still held the phone that was recording. So-called crush is nothing more than this. She pressed the stop recording button, looking at the complete recording that had already been captured, and gave a self-deprecating smile. This shall be her final gift to Christopher before she leaves. Chapter 5. When she returned to Law's home, it was already past midnight. She wearily pushed the door open and immediately saw the man sitting on the sofa, legs crossed, with a cold expression, his gaze heavily fixed on her. Seeing her appear, Christopher's expression darkened slightly. I have warned you before. Why do you still target Calliope? It turned out that he had been sitting in the living room waiting, just to question her. Thinking of the recording on her phone, she instinctively wanted to take it out. However, when her hand touched the cold exterior of the phone, she suddenly came to her senses. Given Christopher's current feelings for Calliope, the facts are right in front of him, and he wouldn't believe it. He might even think she was playing some trick. The best timing for this recording to appear would be after her death. Because the dead do not lie. Valentina pulled at her lips, raised her head, and found an excuse to perfunctorily say, just think of it as me loving you too much, and being too jealous of her, which is why I would do these things. After saying that, she walked towards her room without looking back, leaving behind a slightly stunned Christopher, who quietly gazed at her retreating figure. The next day was Theodore's birthday. Early in the morning, Christopher went out for Valentina. This was a good opportunity. She could celebrate Theodore's birthday without any reservations. In the past, every time it was his birthday, she would personally make a cake, choose gifts for him, and the two of them would sit together happily blowing out candles and eating cake. Recalling those images, Valentina couldn't help but smile. With great enthusiasm, she cooked a large table full of dishes that Theodore loved, and also prepared a cake and longevity noodles. After doing all this, she took out a photo of Theodore and gently caressed the handsome face of the man. Happy birthday! Before she could call out Theodore's name, the door was suddenly pushed open, and Christopher strode in. Their eyes met, and the atmosphere became somewhat delicate. She hurriedly put away the photo, and Christopher stared at everything before him, clearly stunned, and then his gaze suddenly darkened a few shades. How did you know today is my birthday? Valentina lowered her gaze. Memories of the information the system had once told her about Christopher flooding her mind. Yes, today is also Christopher's birthday. The Law family has 2 sons. Christopher is cold in temperament and, as the older brother, has been neglected since childhood. He and his younger brother's birthdays are only 1 day apart. Yet their parents always remembered the younger brother's birthday and forgot his. It wasn't until later that both his parents and younger brother died in a car accident. And even in death, their bodies were tightly holding on to the younger brother. Since then, he has not celebrated a birthday. Even his childhood friend Calliope did not remember his birthday. So at this moment, Christopher was clearly at a loss for what to make of everything before him. Valentina didn't know what to say. She naturally couldn't reveal that she wasn't actually here to celebrate his birthday. so she could only remain silent. But in Christopher's eyes, it only seemed like she had acquiesced. He walked step by step to the table, his ink-black eyes slightly trembling. The usually indifferent and emotionally detached man now involuntarily revealed a hint of unusual emotion. The servant behind her quickly chimed in, "Mr. Law, to prepare a surprise for you. These were made by Miss Lin, who worked all day on them by herself, without any help. I saw her nearly burn her hands in the process." The servant Helen has a good relationship with Valentina. Over the years, she often visits Law's home, treating Helen well and frequently helping her with tasks. So she often speaks up for her. At this moment, she was naturally helping Valentina by saying all the good things to promote their relationship. Christopher had a momentary look of distraction on his face. A moment later, he came back to himself and coldly said, "This is the last time. Don't make these for me again." Chapter 6. Even so, he still sat down and picked up the longevity noodles that were beside him. He remembered how, as a child, he always envied his mother for making longevity noodles for his younger brother. But he never got to eat them even once before she died. Now, for the first time, he was eating them, but it was Valentina who had made them with her own hands. Seeing that he had completely misunderstood, Valentina had no choice but to go along with it and finished the bowl of longevity noodles with him. In the end, he picked up the dinner knife again to prepare to cut the cake. "Wait a moment!" Valentina hurriedly reached out to block, while taking a candle from the side and inserting it into the cake. "You haven't blown out the candles to make a wish yet." Christopher was somewhat taken aback, his long fingers trembling slightly before retracting. He had never celebrated a birthday, even forgetting to blow out the candles and make a wish before eating the cake. After the candle was lit, Valentina urged him to make a wish. He coldly complained about the trouble, but in the end, he whispered his wish. "I hope Calliope's surgery is successful, and that she will be free from worries for years to come." As his words fell, his gaze unconsciously landed on Valentina's face, noticing the dimming light in her eyes, causing his heart to flutter uncontrollably. He furrowed his brows and, almost as if compelled by some unseen force, added another remark. "I hope your surgery is also successful, and that you have a safe and smooth journey." The birthday segment had reached its conclusion, and he stood up, intending to leave. But just at that moment, the chandelier above suddenly fell without warning. As the chandelier came crashing down towards Christopher, Valentina's heart tightened. If her target died, her mission would be declared a failure. Without a second thought, she leaped towards Christopher. "Be careful!" The shattered light resembled shooting stars, making the entire living room instantly dreamlike and splendid. In this dazzling light, Valentina wobbled and fell. Before she completely lost consciousness, she seemed to see Christopher frantically rushing towards her. Perhaps she was not quite clear-headed after being hit by the lamp. Otherwise, how could she possibly see Christopher showing such a tense expression? In a daze, not knowing how long she had slept, when she woke up again, Valentina was already in the hospital. By her bedside, Christopher was watching over her. Upon seeing her awake, he seemed to be enveloped in a layer of coldness. "Why did you rush over? Are you trying to throw your life away?" Valentina's head was still groggy, but she knew clearly that she could not tell him the truth. If he had been killed, how could she complete her mission and revive Theodore? She looked at him with eyes like torches. "Because I love you." Because she loves him, she would rather be hurt herself. Because she loves him, she is willing to donate her own heart. Because she loves him, she can do anything for him. Christopher no longer remembers how many times he has heard her confess her love to him so passionately. It seems that no one has ever been so steadfast in putting him first. Looking back on the 5 years since she appeared by his side, she has done so much for him. When he was drunk, she stayed by his bedside, taking care of him all night, no matter where he is. As long as he makes a call, she will rush over immediately. Even if he hurt her countless times for Calliope, she never cared. What kind of intense and profound love could make her go to such lengths? Christopher's heart trembled violently. Just as he was about to say something, the door was suddenly pushed open in a hurry. "Christopher, it's bad. Calliope has committed suicide by cutting her wrists." His expression instantly turned tense, and he immediately stood up from the chair. "What did you say?" "Someone explain immediately. She has already been sent to the hospital, but she is currently losing too much blood and needs a transfusion right away. The blood bank is in urgent need. Isn't Valentina's blood type exactly the same as Calliope's? Hurry and let her donate blood." Chapter 7. It has been 5 years, and this is the first time he has shown hesitation between Calliope and Valentina. His brows were tightly furrowed, and amidst his anxiety, there was a hint of reluctance. "Is there no other way?" "Valentina. She has just been injured too." Everyone was taken aback, not expecting that Christopher, who usually regarded Calliope as his life, would actually show hesitation at this moment. A few people exchanged glances, incredulously saying, "Christopher, what are you talking about? Valentina is just a simp, and you're still worried about her?" Christopher's expression darkened further. Just as he was about to speak, Valentina had already thrown off the covers and jumped out of bed. She put on her coat while walking out. "Let's go. I can donate blood." At this moment, Calliope's life was certainly more important than hers. After all, if she died, Valentina's mission would be impossible to complete. She didn't feel sad. She had just been injured, and now as she walked, she felt dizzy and could barely take a step, needing to lean against the wall for support. Watching her stagger away, Christopher's heart inexplicably ached. This was the first time he felt heartache because of her, and he found it utterly absurd. Clearly, the most important person in his heart was Calliope, yet he was feeling pain because of another woman. It must be guilt. He only felt guilt towards her. After all, she had just saved his life, so it was normal for him to feel compassion for her. Christopher repeatedly told himself in his heart, and then followed Valentina into the blood donation room. The air conditioning in the blood donation room is very low. Valentina is wearing a thin coat and is shivering involuntarily. Beside her, Christopher watched the nurse's not-so-gentle actions, his brows furrowing even deeper. "Is that enough? How much more do you need to draw? Isn't it too much to draw?" Valentina looked up and said seriously, "Don't worry. Doctors know their limits and it won't affect the heart donation surgery in a few days." Christopher was taken aback, just about to explain that he didn't mean it that way, when the nurse had already pulled out the needle. "All right. You've had so much blood drawn at once. You should rest well for the next few days and avoid strenuous activities." Valentina whispered her thanks. Then, pale-faced, she got up and issued an eviction order to Christopher. "I'm tired and want to return to the patient room to rest. You can stay here with Miss Zhao." After saying this, she didn't even wait for Christopher to respond, pressing her hand against her arm and slowly walking out the door. For some reason, there was an uncomfortable feeling in Christopher's heart. He couldn't quite articulate what kind of emotion it was, only knowing that it felt as if a stone was pressing down on his chest, suffocating him and making it hard to breathe. In the following days, Valentina was hospitalized, just in time for her upcoming surgery, making it more convenient at the hospital. Occasionally, the nurse would come to check on her, and she could hear some gossip about Christopher and Calliope. "Do you know about the patient in the VIP room? The spectacle is quite grand." "Are you talking about Miss Zhao? Who in the entire hospital doesn't know her?" Mr. Law from the law group is truly devoted to her. Not only did he invite the director to personally check on her, but he also booked the entire VIP floor for her alone. "Yeah, the last time I went to deliver medicine, I saw with my own eyes a person who was as cold as an iceberg in front of others, gently coaxing her to eat cake. If I could have a man like that treat me this way in this lifetime, it would be worth dying for." Every time she heard these words, Valentina silently closed her eyes, ignoring what they said. She didn't need to envy anyone. Her Theodore was the best man in the world. Soon, she would be able to see the person she wanted to see the most. Chapter 8. As the day of the surgery approached, Christopher became a bit strange. He comes to the patient room to see her every day, even bringing her favorite desserts. Perhaps he was afraid she would change her mind, which is why he has been especially attentive to her these last few days. In fact, he didn't need to do this at all. She valued this surgery even more than he did, having lain in bed for too long. Valentina couldn't help but get up and walk around. As she reached the corner of the stairs, she happened to hear a few people arguing. She had no interest in other people's privacy and was about to leave when she vaguely heard her own name. It turns out that Christopher and his brothers were arguing about Calliope. Christopher, what are you thinking? Haven't you always loved Calliope the most? Now that she is threatening to die if you don't marry Valentina, why are you still hesitating to agree? After a long silence, Christopher's cold voice finally came slowly. If I don't marry her, what if she refuses to donate? The others immediately breathed a sigh of relief and sneered. Don't worry. We have all seen how much Valentina loves you over the years. Even if you don't marry her, she will still donate. And this way, you won't have to sacrifice your own happiness. And there's also a chance with Calliope. Haven't you always liked Calliope? I've clearly seen how her gaze towards you has changed these past few days. You're so infatuated. Who could resist? Calliope may not admit it, but she has definitely developed feelings for you. The brothers chatted on for a long time, but Christopher still didn't budge. Seeing him silent, everyone finally realized something and incredulously said, Christopher, what are you hesitating about? Damn, you can't really have fallen for Valentina, can you? This sentence seemed to finally bring Christopher back to his senses. His expression changed slightly, and he coldly replied, like? I could never like her in my lifetime. In the corridor, Valentina let out a self-deprecating smile, no longer willing to listen, and turned to leave. Not long after returning to the patient room, Christopher quickly appeared before her. Presumably, he came to discuss the topic that had been debated earlier. Sure enough, after sitting down, he got straight to the point. Calliope's suicide by wrist cutting is something you already know. She didn't want me to trade my happiness for her hope of survival, so she was unwilling to accept your heart in this way. No matter what, I'm sorry, but I must go back on my promise to marry you. I can give you a chance to make a wish. Anything but marriage. Recalling that day, when Calliope had once told her that she would never let her marry Christopher, she suddenly understood everything, so this was her way of stopping it. Valentina raised her gaze once more to Christopher, her heart filled only with indifference. My wish is to move the surgery up. Her answer left Christopher in shock. He remained silent for a long time before he could gather his thoughts. Is this your wish? Your only wish is to have the surgery done earlier? Valentina nodded, her eyes devoid of any distractions. Yes. I want you to see a healthy Miss Zhao as soon as possible. And I, too, want to see a healthy Theodore. Christopher, we both get what we need. Fulfilling our wishes. Looking into her loving eyes, Christopher was utterly flustered. He had imagined 100 different reactions she might have after realizing she regretted the marriage. Yet none of them were like this one. If she cried and begged him, or made any unreasonable demands, he would feel much better than he does now. He furrowed his brow and, after a long while, finally spoke, Valentina, why do you love me so much? As their eyes met, she seemed to see the person she once loved most deeply through his deep-set pupils. She smiled, her tone resolute. I came to this world for you. This statement was the truth. Her purpose in this world was him. But Christopher only took it as a confession, his gaze flickering slightly, and after a long pause, he said, after the heart donation surgery is over, I will prepare a surprise for you. As a compensation, Valentina gently smiled, then picked up a box from the bedside and handed it to him. What a coincidence. I also prepared a surprise for you. Christopher was taken aback, just about to open it, when Valentina reached out to stop him. Wait until my surgery is over to open it. Christopher was puzzled. Why? Because only on that day will it be more surprising. Inside the gift box, there was only a voice recorder. It was precisely the conversation from last time between Calliope and that group of girlfriends. This was her gift to him, as a return for the 30 slaps she had received, and for soaking in the seawater for a full 3 hours. Christopher didn't catch the deep meaning in her tone. The surgery was about to begin, and he didn't want to argue with her over such trivial matters. He tightly held the box and nodded. On the day of the surgery, Valentina was dressed in a white surgical gown and was pushed into the operating room by the nurse. At the moment of parting, Christopher stood in the corridor, watching her departing figure, his heart suddenly and violently convulsing for some unknown reason, causing his face to turn pale. It was as if something important in life was quietly slipping away at that moment. He rushed forward uncontrollably for the first time, grabbing the doctor who was about to enter the operating room. "Are you sure the artificial heart won't have any problems?" The doctor immediately assured him, "Mr. Law, you can rest assured. This technology is already very mature abroad. Miss Lin will definitely be fine." Only after hearing this did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. Strangely, he found himself feeling anxious for Valentina. He comforted himself. After all, it was a matter of life and death, so such a reaction was not surprising. He then sat down on the bench outside. In the operating room, Valentina looked at the white lights above, her heart pounding wildly. Finally, the day had come. She had waited too long. Soon, everything would come to an end. Her lover would awaken, and everything would return to its normal course. Gradually, the sounds around her began to grow chaotic, and then she completely lost consciousness. It was unclear how much time had passed, but the heart removal surgery was successful, and at last, she heard that familiar voice in her ears. "Congratulations, host! Mission accomplished! Lover successfully revived, and the host is about to leave this world." In the next second, the cold alarm of the heart monitor blared in the operating room. Beep. Chapter 9. The piercing alarm screamed wildly, and Christopher, who was waiting outside the operating room, suddenly stood up from his chair. A wave of intense unease surged within him. His hands clenched into fists, and his whole body trembled unnaturally. "What's wrong? Is something happening to Valentina?" The assistant beside him hurriedly reassured. "It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Didn't the doctor say that this surgery is already very mature? Miss Lin will be fine." Even Christopher himself felt surprised when he realized there was danger in the operating room. The first person he thought of was Valentina, not Calliope. Isn't the most important person in his heart Calliope? Why is this happening? Why does he care so much about Valentina's safety, even more than Calliope? It's impossible, absolutely impossible. It must be that his subconscious has made a mistake for him to worry so much about Valentina. She won't be in trouble. Over the years, she has faced countless dangers like this, and she has always come out safe. This time would definitely be the same. He thought silently in his heart, but he didn't even realize that all these years, Valentina had given so much for him. When Calliope left him to go abroad, it was a huge blow to him. For her, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol, spending night after night in the bar. None of his friends in the circle could persuade him. It was Valentina's appearance that pulled him out of the mire. Looking back at those days of drunken revelry, Christopher found it laughable. He remembered the first time he saw Valentina. He only said one word to her, "Get lost." But she was not angry. She simply knelt gently in front of him and helped him up. She said, "It's okay. From now on I will be with you. My presence is meant to fulfill you." Christopher felt a sharp pain in his heart, as if he could barely breathe. Since when did Valentina become so significant in his heart? The words she spoke to him before entering the operating room echoed in front of him, like a spell that left him restless. "Why do I feel this way?" The words she spoke felt like a farewell to him. The door to the operating room was suddenly pushed open forcefully, and the doctor slowly walked out, removing his mask. He looked at Christopher, his expression heavy. "Mr. Law, I regret to inform you that Miss Lin has passed away due to a rejection reaction during the surgery. Resuscitation was unsuccessful. You had instructed before the surgery to ensure Miss Zhao's safety at all costs. Rest assured, the surgery for Miss Zhao was very successful." Christopher couldn't hear what he said afterward at all. All he could hear was that one sentence echoing in his ears. Valentina was beyond rescue. She has already passed away. Passed away? What does that mean? Are you saying that Valentina is dead? Christopher felt as if a thunderclap had struck above him, shaking his very insides. Impossible. This cannot be true. As if driven mad, he suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the doctor's collar, his eyes red as if they were about to bleed. "What did you say? Valentina is dead? Who told you that?" Speak up. The doctor was startled by his reaction and kept apologizing. I'm sorry, Mr. Law. We did everything we could. Please accept our condolences. He has almost completely lost his sanity. Get out. Fuck you. Where is Valentina? I want her to appear in front of me right now. He clearly promised during the surgery that Valentina would be safe. Why deceive him? Why? If Valentina is in trouble, he will take the entire hospital down with him. As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed past everyone and rushed straight into the operating room. Chapter 10. In the cold operating room, the lights were frighteningly bright. The doctors and nurses huddled to one side, watching the furious Christopher tremble uncontrollably. They never expected that this surgery would fail. Even more unexpected was that he, who usually didn't care about Valentina, would be so furious upon hearing of her death. Wasn't it said that his most important person was Calliope? How is it that now, after the surgery, he doesn't even glance at her? Christopher walked step by step toward the surgery table covered with a white cloth, his feet heavy as if filled with lead. He had never imagined that one day he would meet Valentina in such a scene. The small body covered by the white cloth is Valentina. When did she become so thin? I still remember when I first saw her. Her face was round, and when she smiled, she had two little dimples. A strong wave of pain surged through him, as if his heart were about to split apart. Only that one sentence remained in his mind, playing on repeat. Valentina is dead. Valentina is dead. The massive stone on his chest finally became unbearable. He clutched his chest and violently spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately after, he fainted. And in another world, Valentina was slowly awakening. It was as if she had been in a long dream, in which she lost her most beloved person, and then spent 5 whole years beside another man. Those 5 years felt unbearably long, long enough that she was on the verge of giving up. Fortunately, she finally completed her mission and returned to her own world. As a beam of light shone into the room, Valentina fully opened her eyes. She surveyed the furnishings of the room, the familiar layout, the sycamore tree outside the window, its leaves already yellow, and the daffodils on the windowsill, which had long since withered. She's back. She's back. She really is back. Valentina joyfully jumped out of bed. She remembered the last moment when the system told her that her mission was successful. So, Theodore has revived too. Thinking of this, her heart felt like it was about to leap out of her chest with joy. She quickly ran out of the room, calling out Theodore's name. Theodore! Theodore! Where are you? Just the thought of seeing Theodore made her so excited that she forgot everything else. But after searching for a long time, she still couldn't find a trace of Theodore. She took out her phone to call Theodore, but no one answered. Looking at the empty room, Valentina's once joyful heart turned cold in that moment. Could it be that the system was deceiving her? Or was it all just a dream she was having? There really is no system, and Theodore won't be revived. She slumped helplessly to the ground, tears flowing uncontrollably. Why? Oh heavens, why must you do this to her? Could it really just be a dream? But those 5 years of memories felt so real. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. Tears ravaged her. She felt as if her very soul had been drawn out. If Theodore cannot be revived, she would rather live forever in a dream, never to wake up, for at least that way she still had a hope to sustain her. He was her only family, and they had met in the orphanage, staying together as they grew up. So for her, Theodore was the entire world. Valentina was as heartbroken as if she were reliving his death. She could never forget how he lay bleeding in her arms when the car accident happened. If it weren't for her stubbornness and the argument with him, the car wouldn't have crashed into her, and Theodore wouldn't have been thrown away while trying to save her. Everything is her fault. Chapter 11. It hurts. It hurts too much. Valentina curled up on the ground, crying uncontrollably. If he cannot be revived, why does the system deceive her in this way? Is it fun to toy with her? To give her hope and then utterly destroy it? If the system wants to see her suffer in death, then she will fulfill its wish. She stood up from the ground, walked to the coffee table, took a fruit knife, and slowly approached her wrist. This idea, in fact, had already been decided when Theodore passed away. It was only at the last moment that the system appeared, giving her a glimmer of hope, which temporarily made her abandon the thought of ending her life. Now, it is time for her to accompany Theodore. She closed her eyes, placing the blade against her wrist, and just as she was about to apply pressure, the door suddenly opened. "What are you doing?" A familiar voice came, causing Valentina to freeze in place. She opened her eyes in shock and looked towards the doorway. And in the next moment, the knife in her hand fell to the ground. Theodore! It really is him. He was still as he was 5 years ago, his handsome face carrying a hint of aloofness, the sunlight shining on his face as if it were gilded, making him look like a god descending from the heavens. Valentina had never felt such joy before. She cried as she rushed towards him and then held him tightly. "Theodore! It really is you. Where have you been? Do you know how much I missed you? I was so scared that you wouldn't come back." She cried uncontrollably, but this time, it was tears of joy. Just as she was about to ask him more, those long, powerful hands gently pulled her out of his embrace. He looked at her, his gaze tender yet distant. "Miss, who are you? And how did you end up in my home?" In the hospital, Christopher awoke to find that it was already dark outside. He had fainted from anger, but the doctor had given him N4, and now he was fine. The hospital was quiet. As he opened his eyes, the beautiful face of Valentina immediately appeared before him. He immediately sat up and shouted the assistant's name. "Where's Valentina? Take me to Valentina." The assistant hurried over at the sound, helplessly comforting him. "President, please accept your grief. Miss Lynn has truly passed away." Christopher let out a cold laugh, his gaze filled with chilling intent. "If you dare to talk nonsense with me again, just get lost." After saying that, he threw off the blanket and was about to get out of bed. The assistant steeled his heart and stepped forward to block him again. "President, please face reality. Miss Lynn has already passed away. She died during the heart donation surgery, despite all efforts to save her." "President, what exactly is wrong with you? You should have thought of this from the beginning, especially since the most important person in your heart is Miss Zhao. Now that she is safe and sound, isn't that enough?" Chapter 12. Christopher was stunned. Yes. What was he even making a fuss about? Wasn't it all something he should have anticipated? No matter how skilled the doctor is at surgery, after all, they are removing the most vital organs from the body. To have a living person rely on machines to survive is, in itself, a gamble with life, isn't it? So all of this is his fault. It has nothing to do with the hospital or the doctor. It was he who insisted that Calliope donate her heart. It was he who clearly promised to marry her, then suddenly regretted it, leaving her utterly heartbroken. It was he who caused Valentina's death. The one who should accompany her in death is someone else. He lay helplessly on the bed, suddenly remembering the gift that Valentina had given him before entering the operating room. It was the surprise she had prepared for him, and he hadn't had the chance to see it yet. Thinking of this, he immediately ordered his assistant to bring that box over. Christopher couldn't wait to open the box, but to his surprise, inside was only a voice recorder. He trembled as he picked up the voice recorder, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. Inside, could it be her last words left for him? Thinking of her voice, he couldn't help but feel heartbroken. After much mental preparation, he finally pressed the play button. "Calliope, Christopher loves you so much. He gave you such an expensive necklace just like that. When you cried, he felt so pained, wishing he could give you his life. By the way, you said before that you only regarded him as a brother when you went abroad with your ex-boyfriend. Your ex-boyfriend ran away as soon as he heard about your heart condition. Only Christopher has stayed by your side. After all he has done for you, even a heart made of stone would have to be warmed. You surely don't still see him as just a brother, do you? You were also deceived by me. Calling him a brother was just an excuse. Men are always attracted to what they can't have. If not, how could I become his unattainable crush? As long as I keep Christopher hanging on, he will love me forever. That's much better than actually being with him. Of course, which man in this world can compare to Christopher? That guy was just a tool I brought in to make Christopher jealous. Look, Christopher, haven't these years been nothing but a waste for me? Lingering on and on? Wow, Gao, your move is truly brilliant. But Calliope, you better not go too far. I heard that Christopher is going to marry that sycophant Valentina for your heart. If they get married, all your schemes will have been for nothing. Calliope spoke confidently. I have a handle on this. Moreover, Christopher didn't care about that woman at all. A few days ago, I deliberately slapped myself 3 times, and he had someone return the favor with 30 slaps to her. Today, I threw the necklace into the sea again, and without a second thought, he kicked her into the water. She still hasn't come up. I have plenty of ways to torment her. Don't worry. I will definitely not let them get married. Calliope's voice sounded so unfamiliar at that moment. Christopher listened to that recording over and over again, gripping the voice recorder tightly, his knuckles turning white. Ridiculous! So ridiculous! It turns out, all of this was her scheme, just to make him devoted to her. She actually did something like this. Did she not realize that his initial love for her was enough for him to love and cherish her for a lifetime? Does she not know how much he suffered during that time after she left him to go abroad? So, in Calliope's eyes, he was simply unimportant. In her heart, the gains and losses of feelings were far more important than him. He must have been blinded by love to believe her. Thinking back to how he let the bodyguard slap Valentina 30 times for her. And that night, he disregarded her life and let her stay in the sea for a full 3 hours. What kind of executioner, what kind of demon, could do such things to her? Christopher was almost going crazy. And what drove him to despair even more was that Valentina was constantly misunderstood and wronged. Yet she never uttered a word of complaint. Bastard. He is simply a bastard. Christopher clenched his fist and slammed it hard against the wall in front of him. Blood immediately flowed down the pure white wall. But even so, he still seemed to feel no pain as he pounded away. Punch after punch. Heaven. How wonderful it would be if time could be rewound. He would never let the same thing happen again. But it was all too late. Chapter 13. After returning from the hospital, Christopher seemed to have lost his soul. The servant was tidying up the things left by Valentina. He finally regained his awareness. Put it down. Who allowed you to touch her things? The servant fell silent, immediately putting the items back in place. It was Miss Zhao who called, saying that Miss Lin had already passed away, and that keeping the belongings of the deceased at home is inauspicious. Which is why we were asked to tidy up. Christopher's cold gaze swept over. Like a knife, this family is not yet hers to command. From now on, without my orders, no one is allowed to touch Valentina's things. Understood? The crowd nodded, and the servant Helen let out a sigh, rubbing her eyes as she tidied up. Miss Lin, in your next life, make sure to love yourself well, and do not give to those who are not worth it. Christopher turned to glance at her, his gaze cooling slightly. This servant seemed to have more to say. He remembered that she used to have a good relationship with Valentina, often speaking up for Jiang. If it were any other time, she would have dared to confront herself like this, and long ago would have ordered her to be thrown out. But now, she was the only one connected to Valentina. He couldn't bear to let her go. Tell me, how did she give so much for someone unworthy? Helen was slightly taken aback, and it took her a long time to realize that Christopher was talking to her. She sighed, thinking that now that the person was dead, it really felt wrong not to speak up for her. So she mustered her courage and spoke up. Sir, it's not that I'm criticizing you, but you really missed out on a wonderful woman. Seeing his face calm, as if he had no intention of being angry, she boldly continued speaking. Sir, I have been in this household for some years now, and if I may be so bold, I have watched you grow up. In these years by your side, I have seen many women, but none like Miss Lin. Others approach you either for your identity, your status, or your appearance. They are not sincere. Only Miss Lin truly loves you without any ulterior motives. Christopher furrowed his brow, signaling her to continue. Receiving his hint, Helen continued to speak. I know that you and Miss Zhao are very close, having grown up together, and you like her, but as an outsider, I must say, she really can't compare to Miss Lin. Back when she left you to go abroad, we all know how you managed during that time. If she truly cared for you, she would never have left you when you needed her the most. At that time, it was Miss Lin who stayed by your side. It was she who helped you through. I still remember. You used to get drunk often, no matter how late it was. She would always come to pick you up and take care of you all night long. Every time you get drunk, you insist on going to the United Kingdom to find Miss Zhao, and you smash the room into a mess. Sometimes you even hurt people. None of us servants dare to take care of you, except for Miss Lin, who is not afraid. Actually, she is not unafraid. She just doesn't want to see you suffer. Think about it. During these days, has there been anything you asked her to do that she hasn't done? You said you wanted handmade snacks for breakfast, so she got up early to make them. You said the flowers in the yard looked ugly, and she personally went to replace them. You wanted to see shooting stars in the middle of the night, and no matter how unwell she felt, she would rush over from over 10 kilometers away. As an outsider, I feel moved just watching. I don't know what you think. Sigh. Now that she is gone, it doesn't matter what I say anymore. I just feel sorry for her and think she is pitiful. Chapter 14. At the beginning, you said that as long as she donated her heart to Miss Zhao, you would marry her. I thought, even though she would only be able to use an artificial heart in the future, at least she could be with the person she loves, which could be considered a wish fulfilled. But I didn't expect that you would go back on that promise for Miss Zhao. Do you know what a heart means to a person? Miss Lin's feelings for you are more than just love. She truly embodies the idea of loving everything that belongs to you. In order to be with the one you love, to make you happy, she sacrificed her own lifelong happiness, and ultimately gave up her own life. Now that Miss Lin is no longer here, whatever I say feels futile. But I think, given Miss Lin's nature, she probably wouldn't blame you. Everything I say today is my own sentiment. Miss Lin never expressed anything to me. She never complained about anything, which is why I think she was too foolish. Sir, I know you like Miss Zhao, but if you want to be with Miss Zhao when she moves in, I think I will no longer be suitable to stay here. Having witnessed Miss Lin's love for you, I truly can no longer serve you and Miss Zhao. After saying these words, Helen was already prepared to be thrown out. Christopher seemed to be lost in memories, taking a long time to come back to his senses. He let out a barely audible sigh, then spoke. I won't be with her, so you can stay. Helen was somewhat puzzled. What did you say? Christopher spoke again. I said, I won't be with Calliope. Helen was stunned for a long time, as if she understood something, and then nodded with some relief. It's a good thing that you can see through it. After the servant left, Christopher went alone to Valentina's room. This was prepared only after deciding to marry her. Because it was prepared in a hurry, one could say it was done carelessly. So the furnishings in the room were very simple. In fact, Valentina hadn't stayed for many days, so she didn't even have many sets of clothes. Christopher sat on her bed, but his heart was deeply stirred. He couldn't help but recall the moments they shared. 5 years had turned out to be so long, and she had already seeped into an indispensable part of his life. It was his dullness that caused him to lose her like this. In the following days, he locked himself in Valentina's room, refusing to go out. No one outside could see him. His brothers called several times, but he remained indifferent, and the one who was most anxious was Calliope. Since the surgery, Christopher has not seen her even once. This is too unusual. In the past, even if she had just a common cold, he would be extremely anxious, staying by her side without leaving. This time she underwent such a major surgery, yet he didn't come to see her even once. How could this be? Calliope was utterly perplexed. She wanted to call him, but he wouldn't even answer her calls. With things reaching this point, she couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. Could it be that he knew something? With that thought, she forced herself to calm down. If he really knew the truth, what should she do to win him back? He has liked her for so many years. He surely wouldn't easily change his heart. But what if he really has changed his heart? Otherwise, why would he have taken so long to come see her? It's okay. No matter what mistakes she made, as long as she says a few kind words, he will forgive her. It has always been like this. So this time, it should be the same as before. Thinking of this, she hurriedly changed her clothes and resolutely headed to Law's home. Chapter 15. This time, she was truly flustered. The car stopped steadily in front of Law's home, and she hurriedly got out. The servant didn't have time to greet her, and she went straight upstairs. "Christopher, where are you? Why don't you come to see me?" She shouted and yelled in the villa for a long time, but still didn't see Christopher's figure. In the end, it was only under the guidance of another servant that she arrived at Valentina's room door. Thinking of Valentina, Calliope's heart inexplicably twitched. Yes, now what beats in her chest is Valentina's heart. No wonder. Thinking of Valentina, it makes one involuntarily feel heartache. She knocked on the door, but there was no response for a long time. Over the years, she had always been cherished and pampered by Christopher, never having experienced such neglect. She knocked harder on the door, feeling somewhat displeased. "Christopher, open the door. I know you're in there. Why won't you see me? What on earth happened? Are you really going to shift all the blame onto me just because Valentina had an accident? I know Valentina's death makes you uncomfortable, but it is not our fault. It is the doctor's fault." The words had not yet been finished when the door slammed open. The surroundings instantly turned as cold as an ice cellar, and Christopher's expression was even more terrifyingly gloomy. Enough! She had never imagined that one day Christopher would speak to her so sternly. Such coldness and ruthlessness were things she had never witnessed before. Staring into his aloof eyes, Calliope was stunned for a while before she regained her senses. She trembled as she stepped forward, wanting to grasp his hand, but in the next second, her hand was forcefully shaken off. Calliope's hand was slammed against the wall, causing her to instinctively furrow her brows in pain, and all the patience was completely exhausted in that moment. She looked at Christopher displeased. "What do you mean? So now, you're getting angry with me for an outsider? Christopher, you can't possibly have developed feelings for Valentina, can you?" Christopher was stunned. It took him a long time to digest the question of whether he had developed feelings for Valentina. Feelings? Has he really developed feelings for Valentina? Maybe. In her repeated rushes towards him, in her constant companionship, in her willingness to set aside all dignity for him, he had already fallen in love with her. He just wouldn't admit it, nor did he want to. Only at this moment could he firmly say those words. Yes, he had long since fallen in love with her. Christopher looked up, once again gazing at Calliope. "I love her." Upon hearing those 3 words, Calliope felt as if she had heard the most ridiculous joke. She let out a bitter laugh, filled with resentment and anger. "Liar, you're lying. How could you possibly love her? Christopher, the one you love is clearly me." After saying this, she rushed towards him, wanting to embrace him, but his movements were quicker, mercilessly pulling her away. "Enough. You know very well what you have done. I don't want to say anything too harsh, but I hope to never see you again." She was completely stunned, biting her lip as she forced herself to ask, "What did you say? I don't understand." Christopher was unwilling to say much more to her, directly taking out the voice recorder and playing the recording. As her own voice emerged, Calliope's expression changed drastically. She rushed forward like a madwoman to snatch the voice recorder, explaining as she did, "It's not like that. It's not like that. Let me explain to you." But Christopher clearly no longer wanted to waste time. He snorted coldly and then slammed the door shut. Looking at the tightly closed door, Calliope burst into tears. Chapter 16. She banged on the door like a madwoman, crying until her voice was hoarse. "Impossible. You're lying to me. Christopher, the person you like is me, right? You've loved me for so many years. How could you possibly like that woman?" Realizing her mistake, she began to apologize again. "I'm sorry. It's my fault. Christopher, I shouldn't have lied to you. I just care about you too much. That's why I thought of that method. Do you know how afraid I am of losing you? Christopher, I'm sorry. I love you. Can we start over?" Calliope had never been this afraid. She knew that this time Christopher was truly angry. In the past, no matter how much trouble she caused, he would never treat her like this. As the sky gradually darkened, no matter how much Calliope pleaded, Christopher never came out to see her. A man like him can lift you to the heavens when he loves you, but can also trample you to hell when he doesn't. Perhaps she was tired from crying. Calliope knew she wouldn't see him today and could only leave. In City C, Valentina looked at the familiar yet strange Theodore before her, her heart aching as if it might shatter. She never expected that he had come back to life, but the price was that he had completely forgotten her. The person before her looked at her, his eyes holding not a trace of affection, only politeness and distance. She stubbornly pressed for answers. You really don't remember me? I am Valen. You're Valen. After all, Theodore furrowed his brow, thought carefully for a long time, but still shook his head. I'm sorry, but I really don't seem to know you. She only felt a sharp pain in her heart. How could she not know her? They had known each other since childhood, being each other's only family, promising to always be together in the future. She stood up and crouched in front of him, eagerly helping him recall the past. Theodore, think about it. We met in the orphanage when I was only 10 years old. I was bullied by the other kids there, and you protected me. And back then, I was always hungry, and it was you who secretly saved your cookies for me to eat. Later, we got into university, started working, and lived together all the time. We promised to get married after the new year and to be together forever. Do you not remember any of this? Theodore looked at the girl in front of him, her eyes shimmering, and for some reason, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. He wanted to recall the past she had spoken of, but no matter how hard he tried, it was just a blank. Did they really know each other? But why could he not remember anything at all? Even the incident she mentioned about him having a car accident. He had no memory of it at all. What on earth is going on? Unable to recall him, Valentina had no choice but to temporarily give up. As long as he comes back to life, it doesn't matter if he temporarily forgets her. There are still many days ahead. She will be with him, slowly filling in the memories they have lost. Thinking of this, she felt a sense of relief. She had already waited 5 years and was not afraid to wait another 5. Moreover, she knew Theodore's nature. Even if he forgot her, he would never do anything to harm her. This is the man she loves, gentle and rational. For some reason, her mind suddenly flashed with Christopher's face. I wonder how he is doing now. Perhaps he has already learned of his death. What would his reaction be? He might feel a bit guilty. After all, she had been by his side for a full 5 years. In the room, Christopher felt as if the world had lost all its color. He had never thought that one day he would lose Valentina. Even less did he expect that losing Valentina would cause him such pain. Chapter 17. He felt as if he was suffocating. He actually loved Valentina, and loved her so deeply. If time could flow backward, he would definitely not make the same choice again. He would treat her well, using everything he had to make it up to her. But now, no matter how much he regrets, it is of no use. He remembers Valentina saying to him that she came to this world for him. Now she is no longer in his world, and he is almost losing the meaning of living. He looked out at the gloomy sky and felt an urge to jump off the windowsill. To end it all, he hasn't eaten for 3 days. So at this moment, his consciousness is somewhat hazy. His subconscious told him that as long as he jumped down from here, he would be able to see Valentina. He couldn't help but open the window. The cold wind made him shiver, but it was as if he felt nothing. Resolutely standing on the windowsill, just as he closed his eyes, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Hello, host. You now have a strategy mission. As long as the mission is completed, you can stay in Valentina's world. Would you like to bind the system to start the strategy? System? Valentina's world? The unfamiliar terms instantly brought him back to reality. Could it be that Valentina isn't dead? She just went to another world? He immediately asked, "What mission?" The system replied mechanically, "Make Valentina fall in love with you within 3 months." Christopher was overjoyed. After all, Valentina already loved him deeply, so this mission would be a piece of cake, right? Heaven truly gave him a chance to make amends with her. Thus, he agreed without hesitation. All right, I am willing to accept this mission, the system added. Friendly reminder, if the host fails the mission, they will return to their own world and lose all assets, remaining forever penniless. Without a second thought, he signed the contract. If it weren't for Valentina, what meaning would his immense wealth hold? Moreover, he believes that Valentina will never let him lose. The mechanical voice of the system sounded. System binding successful. 3-month countdown begins. Host, wish you success. Immediately, a blinding light struck. Christopher closed his eyes and completely lost consciousness. When he woke up again, Christopher had arrived in a completely unfamiliar world. He knew that this was the world of Valentina as described by the system. Everything is actually true. It's not a dream. He was so overwhelmed with joy that he ignored why Valentina had come to his world in the first place, and how she had returned to her own world. He had only one thought in his mind, to find Valentina. With the system's enhancement, he quickly arrived downstairs at Valentina's house. Thinking about how he was about to see Valentina, he felt a bit nervous, like a young lad about to meet his lover. His face unconsciously flushed. Christopher found himself somewhat ridiculous. When did he become so cautious? In his world, he was the favored one, and everything in the world was within his grasp as long as he desired it. Now, for Valentina, he found himself feeling somewhat anxious and uncertain. He stood downstairs waiting, because the system told him this was Valentina's everyday route home. Before long, he indeed saw that familiar figure, carrying a bag of fruit, walking towards him. Chapter 18. In just a few days, she looked much better than before. Her steps were light as she walked, a smile on her lips, as if she were in a good mood. Christopher walked towards her step by step until they met face to face. Perhaps she was not paying attention while walking and accidentally bumped right into his arms. Valentina's nose hit a wall of flesh, and feeling a bit embarrassed, she covered her nose while apologizing. I'm sorry. The fruit in her hand fell to the ground, and she could only bend down to pick it up while murmuring softly, be careful not to bruise it. This persimmon is Theodore's favorite. Just as she picked up the fruit and looked up, their eyes met, and she was so startled that she stumbled back a few steps. Christopher! How could he be here? Seeing her shocked expression, Christopher was both surprised and delighted, instinctively wanting to pull her into his embrace. Valen, is it really you? Valentina had not yet reacted when she was already pulled into his arms. The familiar scent of cologne filled the air, and she instantly became alert, her heart racing. It really is him. She suddenly pushed him away, her tone carrying a hint of displeasure. How did you get here? Could it be? Christopher was somewhat hurt by her things. He thought she would be happy with his arrival, but he didn't expect such a reaction. Valen, I came to find you. Aren't you happy? Valentina adjusted her clothes, her tone indifferent. I don't know how you found me, but I have already started a new life. So please don't disturb me anymore. How could this be? Why would she react like this? Christopher was somewhat incredulous, but he quickly regained his composure. At first, he had taken her heart for another woman, and afterward regretted it. She must still be angry with him. Yeah, she must be angry. Thinking of this, he hurriedly apologized to her. I'm sorry, Valen. It was all my fault before. I've listened to the recording you gave me. Those past events were all misunderstandings on my part. I came here to tell you that the person I've always liked in my heart has always been you. Will you forgive me? As long as you forgive me, I will spend my life making it up to you. Valen, believe me. Can we start over? Hearing his sincere apology, Valentina only found it laughable. She understood why he came to her world. Probably like herself, he was bound to the system. Although she didn't know what his mission was, she had lost all interest in it now. Her life had already begun anew. Christopher and the people and events from the system were all in the past. Moreover, she had never liked Christopher. Theodore's ability to be revived was somewhat related to him. She didn't want to be too harsh. just offering gentle advice. Christopher, our relationship is over. I don't blame you. So there's no question of forgiving any of this. Since you have seen through Calliope, I hope you can find true happiness. But no matter who you love, your happiness will never be with me. This is all I have to say. Please do not come looking for me again. With that, she picked up her bag and left directly. Behind her, Christopher watched her departing figure, somewhat lost in thought. He couldn't understand how, in such a short time, she had seemed to become a different person. He thought that when they met again, she would be just as excited as he was. Or perhaps, she would cry and complain that she shouldn't have treated her that way back then. Chapter 19. But she said nothing, cold as if she had never known him at all. Why is this happening? Christopher pondered in confusion. He could only comfort himself, thinking that she must be too angry to want to talk to him more. As long as he seeks her forgiveness, she will surely treat him like she used to. Such things cannot be rushed. After all, she had treated him well for 5 years, and now it has only just begun. Isn't there still 3 months left? In the remaining 3 months, he will definitely make her accept him. After breaking up with Christopher, Valentina still felt a bit uneasy. He seemed to still be unaware of the true purpose of her being by his side back then. If his system had anything to do with him, wouldn't that mean he would always be by her side in the future? Valentina was somewhat troubled. Her feelings for Christopher were complicated, and even she couldn't quite articulate what she was feeling. Forget it. There's no need to think about it anymore. The most important thing for her now is how to restore Theodore's memory. She took out the key to open the door, placed the fruit on the table, and walked towards the kitchen while putting on her apron. Theodore, I bought your favorite persimmons today. I'll cook right away. You can rest for a bit and then we'll eat. As her words fell, the voice that responded to her was a clear and melodious female voice. Hello, I am Theodore's colleague. Theodore went out and will be back in a while. Valentina turned around at the sound, and what caught her eye was a youthful and vibrant figure. The newcomer had a small and beautiful face, and when she smiled, it was bright and striking. She took the initiative to introduce herself to Valentina. My name is Melissa Mu, but you can call me Jia Jia. I came over today because I have a project to discuss with Theodore, but you don't need to worry about dinner. We will go out to eat later and discuss work at the same time. Valentina's smile froze on her face, unable to articulate what she felt inside at that moment. She had thought she could accept Theodore for getting this fact about her, but when the butterfly effect took hold, bringing a series of small events, she realized just how terrifying her jealousy could be. In the past, she didn't care how Christopher treated her because she didn't love him. But at this moment, her heart ached as if it had been squeezed into a lemon, painfully sour. Even so, she could only force a smile in response. Hello, I am his roommate Valentina. Yes, her identity now is no longer his lover, but rather a roommate. Such an identity leaves her without even the right to feel jealous. Before long, Theodore returned, carrying a bag of tangerines. Melissa was the first to speak to him. You're back. I told you not to make a special trip. It doesn't matter whether I eat the tangerines or not. Theodore smiled slightly and gently replied. It's fine. It's not far. Let's go. After saying that, the two were about to leave, and as they did, Theodore's gaze drifted to the persimmons on the table. His eyes momentarily darkening, he turned to look at Valentina, noticing the disappointment on her face. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. Just leave the persimmons there. I'll eat them when I come back tonight. Upon hearing this, Valentina immediately turned to look at him, her eyes lighting up. Okay, I'll wait for you. In the end, he still cared about her feelings. He was that kind of gentle person. Even though he had forgotten every little detail about her, he still cared about her feelings. Chapter 20. Valentina smiled as she arranged the persimmons one by one, then took out a box of instant noodles, opened it, and cooked it to eat. I haven't eaten instant noodles in a long time. It turns out that as long as I'm with someone I like, even eating instant noodles feels happy. In the evening, Theodore came back. She was curled up on the living room sofa, and when she saw him return, she immediately stood up. How was your meal? Theodore nodded, changing his shoes while glancing at the bag of instant noodles in the kitchen. Did you only eat instant noodles for dinner? Valentina bit her lip, feeling a bit embarrassed. I can just eat something casually by myself. And besides, I haven't had instant noodles in a long time. They're actually quite tasty. Theodore shook his head helplessly. How can we just eat instant noodles at night? From now on, I'll come back for dinner in the evenings to avoid you having to deal with it haphazardly again. Hearing his concerned words, Valentina's eyes suddenly turned red. In the past, he used to talk about his own like this. He is actually only 2 years older than her, but he is much more mature and experienced. In the years they spent together, it was always him taking care of her. He would make her wear more clothes to avoid catching a cold, prepare milk for her every day, and cook her favorite dishes daily. Before he passed away, she couldn't cook at all, and during those 5 years, she learned all the skills of caregiving while being by Christopher's side. Strangely, she found herself thinking of Christopher again. Love and being loved is truly a cycle, and heaven is the evil hand that controls this cycle. Valentina shook her head, trying to drive away this strange thought from her mind. Early the next morning, as soon as Valentina stepped outside, she saw Christopher waiting downstairs. He seemed to have waited for a long time, with dew still clinging to his long eyelashes. His appearance has always been striking, tall and slender, with delicate features. Standing in this neighborhood, he seemed out of place among the others. Seeing her arrive, Christopher excitedly walked over to her with breakfast in hand. Valen. He handed the breakfast in his hand to her, his tone carrying a hint of appeasement. These are all your favorites. I bought them myself. Looking at the breakfast handed to her, Valentina couldn't muster a single smile. She sighed helplessly and once again spoke earnestly. I've already told you. Don't come looking for me again. Why won't you listen? Christopher seemed to be hurt. The usually proud man was rarely so humble. I just want to be a little nicer to you. Valentina pushed his hand away. I've already told you. I don't need you to be nice to me. Christopher, I'll say it again, I won't forgive you. Because I've never blamed you. The past is behind us. I've started a new life now, and I hope you have too, okay? Her tone carried a hint of impatience, and this time even Christopher he himself noticed. He awkwardly withdrew his hand, his handsome face betraying a sense of loss. Valen, I don't understand. You can be angry with me, you can hate me, you can despise me, but can you please not ignore me? You once loved me so much. How could you suddenly become so indifferent? At this point, Valentina no longer wanted to continue the act. She looked at him seriously and said each word clearly. Christopher, I have never loved you. Now, can you leave? After saying that, she walked away without looking back. Christopher, I have never loved you. Christopher, I have never loved you. Christopher, I have never loved you. These words were like a nightmare, tightly wrapping around Christopher. Chapter 21. He can no longer distinguish what is real and what is false. It's impossible. She cannot possibly not love herself. Every day of those 5 years, every detail, did not seem fake at all. She must be saying this out of anger. She is testing herself to see if she would easily give up. Christopher kept hypnotizing himself. It must be like this. It must be like this. He must arrange a time with her to clarify this matter in person. In the following days, Valentina always saw Christopher downstairs. She intentionally avoided him, so there were very few chances of running into him directly. Until this Christmas, Valentina invited Theodore to have dinner together at the restaurant. Valentina prepared for this Christmas dinner for a long time. She was afraid of being rejected by Theodore because although he was polite to her now, he always seemed distant. When she heard him agree to her invitation, she couldn't have been happier. In the past, during Christmas, he would pretend to be Santa Claus and prepare gifts for her. This time, it was her turn to surprise him. So, she got dressed in a Santa Claus outfit early in the morning and waited for Theodore to arrive at the restaurant. The atmosphere on Christmas Eve is wonderful. The entire restaurant is enveloped in a joyful ambience. After Theodore appeared, she bounced over to Theodore with a gift in hand. Merry Christmas! As her words fell, she removed the mustache stuck to her lips and presented the gift to him. Hurry and open it. This is something I prepared myself. Theodore smiled as he opened the box. Inside was a scarf. Her knitting skills were not very proficient, resulting in a scarf that was crooked and not very attractive. But for some reason, looking at this scarf, Theodore felt both familiar and warm. He smiled as he put the scarf around his neck, gently thanking her. Thank you. The scarf is very warm. Hearing his laughter, Valentina felt sweeter than honey. She turned to sit down but didn't notice the Christmas tree behind her suddenly falling, and the direction in which the Christmas tree fell was directly towards Theodore. In that moment, the scene of Theodore's car accident suddenly appeared before Valentina. His pale face, covered in blood, had become the nightmare that haunted her for 5 long years. This time, she absolutely would not let the tragedy repeat itself. In a split second, she lunged straight towards Theodore. With a loud crash, the Christmas tree came crashing down, but there was no expected pain. She closed her eyes and took a long time to regain her senses. In the end, it was Theodore who gently nudged her. Valen, are you okay? Valentina opened her eyes and realized that someone had shielded her from the falling Christmas tree, preventing her from getting hurt. The crowd gasped. Quick, call an ambulance. Someone is injured. I don't know if he is in danger. It looks like he has lost a lot of blood. Valentina looked down and realized that the person lying on the ground was Christopher. The sound of countless screams filled her ears, along with the sound of footsteps. Valentina watched the scene unfold, her mind in turmoil. How could it be him? The ambulance arrived quickly and took him to the hospital. Since no one recognized him, Valentina could only follow the ambulance to the hospital. On the way, Theodore, feeling uneasy, also went to the hospital. In the corridor, the lights of the emergency room kept flashing, with only Valentina and Theodore present. Noticing her pale complexion, Theodore took the initiative to ask, "You seem very worried about him. Is he your friend?" Valentina was taken aback and shook her head. No, after all, he was injured because of me. Chapter 22. The two fell silent for a moment, and then Valentina suddenly looked up at him. Theodore, I want to tell you a story. Would you like to hear it? Theodore nodded, then took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Valentina sniffed and began to speak. 5 years ago, you had a car accident, and my heart turned to ashes. I originally planned to leave with you, but at that moment, I was bound to the system. The system told me that as long as I could do 100 things for you, you would be able to return to my side. So, in order to be with you, I unhesitatingly chose to trust the system. This is how I came to know Christopher. For the past 5 years, I have stayed by his side as a suitor, because only in this way could I avoid suspicion. At first, he disliked me very much, often ordering me to do simple tasks, picking him up from the bar in the middle of the night, or getting up early to queue for breakfast, and even making the girl he liked happy, among other things. I've done these little things so many times that I've forgotten. The last thing he asked me to do was to donate my heart to the girl he liked. Theodore, do you know that as long as I finish 100 tasks, I will die in that world? So whether I donate my heart or not, I will die anyway, even if it really requires my heart. As long as you can come back, I would be willing. So I naturally agreed to his request. In the end, I really did die, but he regretted it. I think it was my 5 years of dedication that moved him. After all, the girl he liked was indeed not a good person. I was just acting, but he took it seriously. To be honest, he's quite pitiful. Theodore looked at her with a hint of concern. You must have had a painful time these years, right? She bitterly curled her lips. It was painful, but as long as I thought about seeing you, it didn't hurt as much. Theodore, do you believe what I'm saying? Do you think I'm just talking nonsense? Theodore let out a gentle sigh and patted her shoulder. I believe you, although I haven't remembered what happened before. I know you must be the most important person in my life. Can you give me a little more time, okay? Valentina nodded vigorously. I will wait for you. I will always wait for you. The door to the examination room opened, and the nurse pushed Christopher out. Are you Christopher's family? He has a mild concussion and needs to be observed in the hospital for one night. After Valentina thanked the nurse, she turned back to Theodore and said, Theodore, you should go back now. It's enough for me to be here alone. You have to work tomorrow, so make sure to rest well. As for him, I think it's time to have a clear talk with him. Theodore didn't say anything more, nodded, and left. In the patient room, Christopher had already woken up. Seeing Valentina enter, he nervously sat up. Valen, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? Valentina did not respond to his words, only sitting down beside him. I have something I want to tell you. For some reason, looking at her serious expression, a sense of unease surged within Christopher. It was just like when she had to say goodbye to him before going into the operating room. A farewell that felt like forever. He sat up, his gaze heavy. You speak. Chapter 23. For the first time, Valentina felt that being honest with someone could be so awkward. She indeed did many things for him, but she also deceived him, and she gave him a heart. The two of them had settled their debts, and neither owed the other anything. Now that he has come to save her, it instead makes her owe him a favor. She didn't like this. At the beginning, she willingly did 100 things for him, so he didn't need to apologize to her. She thought for a long time before finally speaking. Christopher, I have never liked you. I approached you for another man. As soon as the words fell, Christopher's expression instantly changed. The sorrow on his forehead spread like vines, wildly extending. You're lying, Valen. You're lying, aren't you? You made up this lie on purpose to make me give up. I don't believe it. I don't believe a word of it. Valentina ignored him and continued speaking to herself. 5 years ago, my lover had a car accident while trying to save me. After he passed away, my heart turned to ashes. And at that moment, the system appeared, giving me a mission. If I complete 100 tasks for a man, my lover can be revived. And that man is you. Think carefully. Isn't my appearance strange? Before that, you and I had no connection. I appeared suddenly when you were at your most vulnerable, to avoid arousing suspicion about my actions. I can only use the excuse of liking you. Haven't you noticed that every time I say I love you, there isn't a trace of emotion? The name I called out while I was unconscious was Theodore. He is the one I love in my heart. The reason I risked everything to save you is that if you died, my mission would be incomplete. That day you thought I was celebrating your birthday, but it wasn't. That day was Theodore's birthday, so the dishes on the table were all things Theodore liked to eat. I left you the voice recorder because I felt sorry for you and didn't want you to be deceived by Calliope anymore. Consider it my small act of revenge. After all, she was the one who made me suffer and left me soaked in seawater. And you probably don't know, but my mission was successful, so I returned to my own world. And the version of me in the mission world will cease to exist, which means my heart won't last much longer. The one who truly needs the artificial heart is Calliope. Once you go back, make sure to get her surgery done quickly, or she might be in life-threatening danger. By now, you should understand that if I have any resentment, it is only towards myself, and has nothing to do with you. Approaching you to accept the mission was entirely my choice, so I have never blamed you. You don't need to worry too much or regret it, because whether you treat me well or poorly, I don't care. The one I love has never been you, because I don't love you. I can tolerate your kindness towards another woman, because I don't love you. I don't need you to marry me, because I don't love you. I have never felt jealousy or envy. What I'm saying is true, because you are bound to the system as well, aren't you? Perhaps your quest is for me to forgive you? If so, then I have already forgiven you, and you can go back now. She spoke so much at once that Christopher didn't even have a chance to interject. After hearing everything she said, he found that he had no room left to refute. In fact, at the moment the Christmas tree fell in the restaurant, he already knew everything. Ironically, he had originally intended to prepare a surprise for her, but he never expected to witness her deep affection for another man. He had never seen her smile like that before, as happy as a little rabbit, bouncing and hopping right up to him. Seeing her smile because of another man drove him absolutely mad with jealousy. Chapter 24. Then, it was an unexpected turn of events. He never expected that she would willingly give up her life for another man. The difference is that this time, her gaze towards that man was filled with concern. It turns out, from beginning to end, he was nothing but a joke. The so-called love he believed in was merely a tool to revive another man. No wonder. Her gaze towards him was clearly filled with affection. Yet he always felt that she was looking through him at another person. It was only at this moment that he finally understood what she meant by that phrase. I came to this world because of you. Ridiculous. So ridiculous. 8. And he, surprisingly, did not know whether to feel sad or angry. He always thought too highly of himself, believing that she was insincere. It was only when the truth was laid bare before him that he began to believe. His mission was not to seek her forgiveness, but to plead for her love. Seeing that he did not speak, she stood up directly. The doctor said you don't have any major issues. Just need to be observed for a night. I'll come back tomorrow to handle your discharge paperwork. I'm leaving now. After saying that, she simply got up and left. She thought, after what she said tonight, he should understand, right? The next morning, Valentina went to the hospital with breakfast. When she arrived at the hospital, Christopher had already packed his things and was waiting for her at the door. Seeing her appear, he smiled and stepped forward to greet her. I've already taken care of the procedures. Although it's not the same world, the basic process is still quite similar. Valentina looked at Christopher, who seemed to have transformed into a different person, feeling somewhat puzzled. How could he become so open-minded after just one night? Seeing her doubts, he took the initiative to explain. I have come to understand. I was so fixated before because I thought you loved me so much. Yet I did not treat you well. Now that we have spoken our minds, I have nothing left to cling to. Also, you are right. My quest is to earn your forgiveness. Since you have forgiven me, I can return at any time. Can you stay with me for 3 days before I go back? Don't worry. I won't have any excessive demands. I just want to have a nice meal with you, enjoy the scenery, and then go back. Never to disturb you again. Valentina hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she nodded. Even Christopher himself didn't expect that true love for someone would be about letting go. Even though he knew she had lied to him, he couldn't bring himself to hate her. In the past, no matter what, she had truly given her all for him. Emotions don't have an on-off switch. They can't just be turned on or off at will. Everything. Let's just consider it the best arrangement by fate. In the next 3 days, the two of them filled their schedule to the brim. Valentina accompanied him to an amusement park, and they watched the fireworks together in the evening. She wanted to cook a meal for him and take him to try all the snacks in City C. She wanted to give him a gift and then say a proper goodbye. Once the plan was set, the two of them began to execute it. Having lived in City C for so many years, Valentina actually rarely went to the amusement park. When they were young, they had no money. When they grew up and had money, they no longer had the courage they had as children. Before going to the amusement park, she specifically asked Theodore, Theodore, do you want to go with us? Theodore shook his head lightly. No need. Since he wants to spend the last 3 days with you, you should accompany him well. Seeing him act so magnanimously, Valentina felt a pang of discomfort in her heart. If he were to regain his memory, he would definitely follow closely with jealousy. Valentina didn't say much more and changed her clothes before heading out. Chapter 25. The two of them walked down the road, attracting quite a few glances. It was simply because Christopher's appearance was too outstanding, causing countless young women along the way to fix their gazes on the two of them. Valentina felt a bit embarrassed, as it seemed everyone clearly regarded them as a couple. Meanwhile, Christopher remained completely at ease. When someone approached him, not noticing Valentina, to ask for his contact information, he apologetically pointed to Valentina, who was not far away. I'm sorry, but I already have a girlfriend. The girl across the way often looks regretful and then leaves with a sigh. When Valentina returns, Christopher is once again calm, and she doesn't know what else to say. After all, there are only 3 days left, so let's just leave it at that. At night, The amusement park will burst into a dazzling display of fireworks. The two stood in the center of the crowd, waiting together for the fireworks to bloom. Christopher turned to look at her, his gaze filled with deep affection. Valen, if you could make a wish right now, what would you wish for? She raised her head, looked at the sky, and smiled gently. I hope that Theodore and I will be together forever. The fleeting sadness in Christopher's eyes passed in an instant. Then he smiled and looked up at the sky. My wish is that Valen's wish can all come true. As the words fell, fireworks soared into the sky, illuminating the entire night as if it were day. The sky full of fireworks was intoxicatingly beautiful. Valentina glanced at Christopher beside her, feeling a slight tremor in her chest. She withdrew her gaze and once again directed her eyes towards the beautiful fireworks in the sky. The next day, Valentina personally cooked a large feast at Christopher's request. Usually the pickiest eater, today he surprisingly couldn't stop praising the meal. Meanwhile, Theodore only took a couple of bites before returning to his room, seemingly to give the two some privacy. Valentina felt a bit helpless, but she understood that it was impossible for him to regain his memories and return to his former self immediately. After the meal, Christopher put down his chopsticks and joked, having eaten your cooking, there's no need to try any other snacks. Sometimes, I really envy Theodore. In fact, he envied his former self even more. Back then, Valentina had cooked for him more than once. But in the end, he only remained silent as he let the servant throw the food into the trash. Now, he can only regret not acting sooner. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Now that he can taste the food she made, he has no more regrets. Chapter 26. On the last day, he wanted to say a proper goodbye to her. They agreed to meet by the lake in the central park of City C. It is now winter, and there are few pedestrians by the lake, only a few swans begging by the water's edge. Valentina threw the bread in her hand to the swans, and they happily called out a few times. Standing not far away and watching all of this, Christopher had a look of satisfaction on his face. If only he could see such a scene every day. How wonderful that would be. Unfortunately, these can only be wishes. Time passed second by second, meaning he would soon have to leave. In the end, let him indulge one last time. He slowly walked up to her and pulled her into his embrace. The faint scent of ancient dragon perfume filled her nostrils. Valentina, and her first reaction was to struggle, but his strength was much greater than hers, and he towered over her by a head. She simply couldn't break free. Such restraint made her somewhat uncomfortable. She didn't want to entangle with him any longer and just wished to escape quickly. Just at that moment of her anxious desperation, a pair of strong hands suddenly appeared on her shoulders, pulling her out of the stranger's embrace. She turned in surprise, and her gaze met Theodore's gentle eyes. The long-lost possessiveness of the man pushed her forcefully behind him. Mr. Law, please have some self-respect. He is usually gentle, rarely showing such a strong side. Looking at the man before her, Valentina was so overjoyed that she was about to cry. Theodore, you remember everything now, don't you? Theodore slowly turned around, pulling her into his arms as if claiming ownership. Yes, I remember everything. Valentina felt that this was the most beautiful language she had ever heard in her life. Nothing could make her happier than this moment. She tightly embraced his waist, letting her tears flow freely. Behind the two of them was Christopher's lonely figure. His wish had already been fulfilled, hadn't it? What he wished to see was Valentina's happiness, even if the one who brought her happiness was not himself. So, what was there for him to be sad about? He didn't tell her the truth. His mission was never as simple as making her forgive him, but it didn't matter anymore. Now, he knew she was living happily in another world, and he was already content. Realizing that Christopher was still standing behind her, Valentina finally reacted and slipped out of Theodore's embrace to say goodbye. You're about to leave, right? In the days to come, I sincerely wish you happiness. He faintly smiled, his eyes filled with deep affection. I also sincerely wish you happiness. As the words fell, a mechanical voice from the system echoed in her ears. Hello, host. Your mission has failed, and you will soon leave this world, losing all your possessions. Soon. His vision became blurry, and he lost consciousness. By the lake, watching him disappear, Valentina and Theodore were deeply embraced. That's great. You remember everything. Do you know how scared I was? Theodore smiled and gently ruffled her hair. Then do you know that I am the one who is scared? Christopher is a very formidable competitor. Valentina let out a laugh. So you can be scared too? I was afraid that you wouldn't be scared. He held her tenderly in his arms. How could that be? I told you, even if I can't remember our past, I know that you are definitely the most important person in my life. She nodded vigorously. From now on, we will no longer be afraid. We are going home. Theodore looked down and gently placed a kiss on her lips. All right, we are going home.